to just give you a brief of the session. We know that the rise of digital platforms has revolutionized how music is created, distributed, and consumed. Kenya's music industry is vibrant and diverse, yet many artists still struggle to monetize their work effectively. I think we heard Nikita this morning, and the issues or the struggles that artists are going through. While platforms like Apple Music, YouTube, Spotify have opened access to international audiences, royalties still remain low and inconsistent. The US recorded music industry generated $17.1 billion in 2023, with 84% coming from streaming. This according to Recording Industry Association of America. Kenya must invest in policies, IP frameworks, and local infrastructure that ensure equitable revenue distribution, sustainable careers, and access to financing for artists. Cross-border collaboration with the US can offer technical expertise, funding, and legal support. Players such as Hustle Sasa and 1RPM are already shaping artist services and direct-to-fund platforms that address unique African market realities. A US-Kenya music bridge could help reposition Kenya as a launchpad for Africa sound exports. And as you heard, I work for the IFPI, and IFPI releases the Global Music Report year on year, and the global recorded music industry has continued to grow. The Global Music Report 2025, which of course reflects the years of 2024, stated that global revenues grew for the 10th consecutive year and reached $29.6 billion in 2024, up by 4.8%, and streaming revenues accounted for 69% of this global music revenues, demonstrating the shift of music consumption, of course, without downplaying the traditional formats. When you come down to Sub-Saharan Africa, we were the second fastest growing region globally, posting an impressive 22.6%, just a 0.2% short from the fastest growing, which was the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa. And for the first time, we surpassed $100 million. But you can imagine with how many countries are we? We were 46 countries. We have a long way to go, and you heard in the morning discussions about the potential of the region. IFPI estimates that Kenya's streaming market, and this is only for sound recordings, to be around $4 million for the year 2024. And if you compare this with performance rights revenue, which is what the CMOs collect, which was estimated to be $801,000, you find that streaming actually accounts for 83.1% of the total 2024 revenue. And I've seen people from PAP here, Piracy. We can never talk about streaming without talking about content protection and enforcement. And Kenyan music right holders aren't guaranteed the industry's full potential in the digital space due to continuing threat of online piracy in the country, exacerbated by the slow progress in administrative blocking actions against infringing sites. And this is why we want this session to be more interactive. So allow me, we have a very distinguished panel this afternoon. We shall start with our very own superstar, Makofi, Bien Ami Alusa Baraza, a Kenyan musician, songwriter, record executive. Yeah, we shall have a... Sit here. Palipopote is okay. And then we have Eric Musyoka, who is the chairman of the Recording Industry of Kenya, our other celebrity, Makofi. We have Peng Chen, the CEO of Hustle Sasa, Inc. Yeah! You can see the hustle, a hustler. And Bilha Garuya, who's the country manager of Kenya 1RPM. Excellent. Yes. We'll make you sing, Bilha. Bien, I'm coming to you. You're going to close this show. You're going to close the show, yeah? Maybe we'll start with you, Bien. Maybe, do we need introductions? I know we are in music, but let's allow them to introduce themselves. Yes? We'll start with you, Bien.
Check. It's on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me today. My name is Bien. I am a singer-songwriter from Nairobi, Kenya, performing musician, businessman, I think Peng and I are in business together many times. And me and Bilha also are in business talks. But I'm a businessman, creative, and a passionate fighter for the creative industry. And I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Excellent. Musyoka.
Good afternoon. Eric Musyoka, music producer, entertainment entrepreneur. Been in the music business for quite a while. Also currently the chairman for RIKI, which is Recording Industry Association of Kenya. We'll talk about it at some point with BN, and I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Excellent. Peng.
Hello, everyone. My name is Peng. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hustle Sasa, which is a Pan-African commerce and ticketing platform. And then my other kind of night job, I suppose, is being one of the co-founders of The Alchemist. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bilhan Garuya. I'm the country manager of 1RPM. 1RPM is the leading music distribution company. We're proud to be American.
Bilha, we'll start with you. We're starting with the ladies for the real questions now. What streaming trends are you seeing in Kenya compared to other African markets?
That's a good question. I mean, the most unique thing about the East African market, Kenya to be specific, but the East African market, is that we are video-fast people. For most people, how they discover music is on TikTok or on YouTube. So even if you look at the numbers that the top artists in the African market have on YouTube, most of it is coming from Kenya. So the fact that we are video fast is one of the most unique things about our market.
Would you say, because if you look at the IFPI global report, you see that out of the 69%, we have 52% as subscription and 17 as ad streaming, ad supported. What do you think is here in Kenya?
Sorry, the last
Yes. How do you give that comparison in terms of subscriptions and payment? We had this morning, Kenyans have not been in that, interested more in paying for subscriptions. What do you think about that?
I mean, streaming is generally new in the Kenyan market. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Yeah, the streaming is generally new in the Kenyan market. I think Spotify broke in the pandemic, 2020. So it's going to take us a while to get used to paying for music. And I think that's also why people are gravitating to YouTube and TikTok more, because it's free. But it's coming because Spotify, I think right now, is the leading audio distributor. So that means that people are starting to pay attention and wanting more, something different, yeah.
Excellent. I think from the crowd, because I'll just ask a round of questions and then we can have some interaction, and then we're going to ask a second round. But it's good to also hear from you, how can we make it better? Because if we're going to see the money, then we need to be able to see some subscriptions and some payments coming through. Thanks, Bilha. Peng, how does Hustle Sasa help Kenyan artists earn more from their content? Yeah.
One of the things that the guy from the recording studio mentioned in the last session was just how important of a revenue stream live events was to artists, right? I think you threw a stat out there that said Kenya had $4 million in streaming royalties combined. Last year, as our own company, we paid out more than $4.5 million to live event creators here in Kenya, right? And it's clear that, in terms of monetizing yourself, like we see streaming as kind of the top of the funnel, right? Those are the people that you're building around the world to build an audience and connection with. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to who's going to show up for you in person, right? Who's going to come see you at the show? Who's going to buy the merch? Who's going to tell their friends? How are you going to build a business around your music? And we think live events is one of the most important factors of that. And we're super excited to see more and more artists, particularly here in Kenya, take a more regional approach to that, right? As an example, Kodong Clan is doing, I think, like a 7-city Kenya tour in the coming months, which is amazing. Soulfest as well is planning on doing little Soulfest pre-parties all over the continent. Last year we had the chance to do the first one in Kigali as well. So we really see live events as an important part of building your local community and also growing that around the region.
Wow, so there's money, Peng.
There's money.
Bien, our superstarish. Congratulations on concluding your US tour.
Thank you.
Yeah. So can you first tell us about it?
Yeah. My tour was mostly sold out and blessed. The fans showed out. I think instead of me telling you how the tour was, I'd rather tell you the lesson from the tour. I was reading a book during the pandemic called Who Moved My Cheese? It's a tiny book like this. It's not more than, I know artists don't like reading big books. So I'm gonna give you that as your homework. It's a tiny book of not more than 50 pages, and the font is this big too. And the book Who Moved My Cheese speaks of engineer Bwana. The book Who Moved My Cheese. Check, 1, 2, 1, 2. The book Who Moved My Cheese speaks of rats that lived in a maze. And one day, one rat made it out the maze. And when they were in the maze, they used to find cheese in specific points. And every day, they'd find the same bits of cheese in the same points. And the cheese was all right. It wasn't much, but it was just a substantial amount. And then, when that one rat made it outside the maze, they discovered that outside the maze was a land of pure cheese and just too much cheese. And that's what I want to say to my fellow creatives, that our gift is to give us dominion over the world. And the world is waiting for us to go and show them what we are about. So as we sit here sometimes, we might be a bit maybe satisfied with the cheese that's in this place, but there's only one Prince Indah, and the world needs to see that Prince Indah immediately. So from my trip, all of the things that were successful in the trip were situational. When I left for the US tour, my tour wasn't sold out. It sold out when I landed, and I started doing things within that market. The opportunities like Breakfast Club that met me on the way are opportunities that came because I was on the ground. So as you go out there to look for your cheese, may the road rise to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now that was just a tete-a-tete. Now I'm asking you the streaming question.
Okay.
How has the widespread availability of production and distribution tools fueled a surge in independent artists, enabling them not only to reach global audience, but also to earn a living from their work? And as this shift unfolds, how are the dynamics between creators and their fans being redefined?
I think I'm living testimony that you can actually push without being signed to a major label and have things happen for you. I've been independent in my solo career. I know Sauti Sol was signed to Universal Music Group, but I've been independent my entire career, and I've been able to use the different tools that are available to me to make things happen. Production happens in my house. I don't need to go and rent. I still rent a studio to do things because I'm still old school, but I could basically record everything in my house. And all the artists who are in the come-up right now are recording in their studios. Urban Tone hits are being made in their bedrooms. You know? So that's a beautiful place to be, where we can all survive without the gatekeeping and all the hullabaloo that comes with the majors, so to speak. And when you're in Kenya, you can reach your audience in Brazil, you can reach your audience in different places. Man, I'm surprised when I look at Spotify and I see a Kenyan artist who I've never heard of, who has 1 million subscribers and is listened to in a different part of the world. That's the power of the digital game. So where we are right now, the power is in our hands. And let's build the virality. Let's keep on pushing.
Excellent, excellent. Musyoka, when we're talking about the recording industry of Kenya, maybe you can start by just giving an overview of what Reiki is, and then you tell us what regulatory policy and structural licensing challenges would improve revenue collections in Kenya.
Mic check. RIKI, it's the Recording Industry Association of Kenya. We are a trade union that represents owners of sound recording or recorded music. We are pretty new in the space, but let me give you international comparisons. You've heard of RIA in the US, RISA in South Africa, BPI in the UK, and yeah, so we are the equivalent of those trade associations. So we are here to represent and protect the rights of owners of sound recording. So we are not a CMO. Please repeat after me. We are not a CMO. We don't pay royalties, but we represent, regulate, and policy the recorded music industry. So if there's anything in the copyright bill that needs to be addressed, we represent the members and owners of sound recording. We are the voice of the recorded music, basically, in the industry. And if you follow the trends and understand how the recorded music business operates, RIA is extremely powerful in the US. They're the guys who sue people who download MP3s illegally. They have very landmark cases against illegal and unfair use of recorded music. Our board composition is definitely owners of sound recording, record labels, self-released independent artists. You're all welcome to be our members. And yeah, BN is in our board. We have representatives from Universal, Warner, Suzanne, and other legendary owners of sound recording from the industry. I'm just a young guy. Najitetea. Yeah, so basically in a nutshell, that's what RIKI is all about. But besides that, for me, that's a new role I've embarked on. I mean, my background is pretty much music production, and as an owner of a record label, it's fitting for me to be in this position to help, regularize the industry and just create the right framework for all of us to benefit. Yeah, so what was the question? I was thinking of my answers.
The regulatory policy,
Yes,
because
yes.
RIKI deals with the regulation and policies and the challenges that would improve, because we're here basically discussing the streaming power, the business of sound. So we want to be able to know where is the money?
The money is everywhere, pretty much. As long as music is being listened, don't start digging. I've heard some whispers. But the money is pretty much everywhere. And as a regulatory, not regulatory body, like as the custodian of recorded music, our work is to ensure that, one, we fight piracy. We work with the government and lobby for fair laws and copyright acts that favor and secure and protect the investment of investors in the recorded music business. So, like the upcoming copyright bills, we have a lot of say in that. And when it comes to anti-piracy, let me talk about anti-piracy briefly. Just because we don't have physical products that are tangible, we may not assume piracy doesn't exist. And in fact, it's extremely prevalent in the digital space. And the guys who are involved in that operating in that space, our work is to fight them, shut down sites, and I'm sure you've all heard of Pirate Bay and all that stuff. So we are pretty much dealing with those kind of individuals and perpetrators. So our work is to ensure that we police, enforce, and protect sound recordings. Given that the earnings from music, with streaming sites nowadays, it's 0.0000. When an album was a physical copy, you could, a pirate can only print so many copies, But right now in the digital space, literally one file can reach 1 million people. And if you study the history of recorded music and what happened when Napster and all those guys came on board, they totally disrupted the music business. And it is RIA, the equivalent of RIKE, what we are in Kenya, that was at the forefront of fighting that war and ensuring that they enact right laws and, measures to fight against the onsurge of illegal downloads. And they were kind of successful, and that gave birth to the rise of the Spotifys and the iTunes, and it kind of reshaped the business model. So part of fighting piracy is what created what we currently have as streaming. Yeah. So pretty much we are looking at having things like that and working with international bodies, and including IFPI, to make sure that we have the right regulatory, the right data, because data is very, very key for us to understand how music is consumed, by who, where, and where the money is. Because when you don't have that kind of data, you cannot trace and understand how to commercialize and exploit your musical works for your benefit as a business.
Excellent. And just to put that into perspective, I'm just pulling up some numbers here. The number of visits to piracy sites in Kenya increased from 50.5 million in 2022 to 79.4 million in 2023, which accounts for 57.22% rise in piracy. So you can imagine if you have, a shilling or even a shilling or 2 shillings each, and I'm sure PAP has even numbers larger than that that cuts across the whole industry. You can see it can be a significant amount. So we really need to be able to at least have some inclusions like website blocking as a permanent injunction. And I think for policymakers, that's a really critical place to start seeing that streaming is where the music revenue is right now globally. And I'm sure here in Kenya, we need to be able to follow suit. I will put now these questions for the first round to the audience. Anyone with any questions so far? Or any interventions as well? So it doesn't really have to be questions. Yes, yes. We have one here. Do we have the microphones, please? Okay, we'll just take maybe 5 questions. 1, 2, okay, 1, 2, yes, 3 there. Let's take those 3 first.
Hi, everybody. Martha is my name. As in reference to the same, the Kenyan music industry is losing 15 billion Kenya shillings every year to piracy. That's money that should be going into all our pockets, stakeholders, musicians, service providers, IP enablers, all of us. So my question is to you, Monsieur Kayus. You've spoken about site blocking. And I'm glad that I'm seated next to you, Faith, because you represent US, right?
No pressure, no pressure.
No pressure, no pressure. Companies like Cloudflare, they're really enabling websites that are promoting piracy. So how are we, through you, Raik, going to block them in terms of site blocking, not only dynamic blocking, but stay down, takedowns and stay down? How are you ensuring that? Number 2 is, I don't know if you will speak about this, but ISPCs and the registration of the same. How are we going to ensure that everybody in this room who's creating music to be consumed has identification on their music that can be tracked the world over?
Thanks for that question, Martha. When it comes to site blocking, I mean, it's our work right now. We are engaged with internet service providers to enable track sites and the IP and MAC addresses of servers where this content is loaded. Today you block, tomorrow they move to another server. So it's a continuous game of cat and mouse. You block one avenue, tomorrow they open another site. Of course, being a new organization, we are relying heavily on our sister bodies in other national groups and relaying this data to them. And just once we provide the data to them, we can be able to just follow up and see what has been done. I'll be very honest, it's not as easy as it is, as it seems, but it's an initiative that we are willing to continue doing as part of our mandate as Raiki. And in terms of the ISPs, one big challenge we've always had with recorded music in Kenya, we lack standardization, and there's a standard code called the ISRC code. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. It's a standard code that allows you to track all your music consumption anywhere in the world. It's embedded as metadata once you release your music from the studio. So we also provide that, and that allows us to identify music all over the world. It's what is used to collect for you and pay for you royalties and identify from which region your music is coming from. I could get a bit more into that, but the time might not be enough to emphasize on the importance of having that. But again, piracy and content identity is key for us.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, I think from the research that we've done, and we usually, as IFPI now, support Reiki in this work, most of in fact not most, the actors are actually not in Kenya. You find that the piracy comes from outside Kenya, with South Africa or Nigeria. So it's very difficult, even as a country. That's why we are really pushing for website blocking, because you see there's also the territorial and the laws that usually apply. So it's a bit complicated for Kenya as a market, where you see Nigeria, they have their pirate sites really from Nigeria and by Nigerians. But here you find that it's actually outside actors. So that makes it a bit complicated. But I think it's a policy issue that we need to be able to work on and ensure that we're able to work with various partners, as Musyoka has mentioned, in other regions to be able to have. But most importantly, website blocking will be able to cure this, at least from a Kenyan perspective.
And Angie, also to just add on to that, Kenya, we are pushing to have our WIPO treaty ratified as part of our mandate as Reiki. And with that ratification, it gives us even more power and leverage in fighting this piracy stuff. So yeah, we are pushing for that. It's a very powerful document if you can research about it.
Yes,
yeah.
It's the WIPO, phonograms and...
Let me not say the word. Treaty. Treaty.
The WPPT is the WIPO Phonograms and Performances Treaty. It's one of the WIPO Internet treaties. Now that music has moved to digital, we need to be able to ratify this. So even if the embassy can assist us with this, and we'll be able to curb this vice. All right. Second question. Yes.
Hi, everyone. So I have a question with regards to streaming. And earlier in the session, when the guys from Dundo were speaking, do you pick and choose where you want to stream your music? That's number one. And number two, when it comes to streaming, I know in Africa, streaming doesn't pay a single shilling. So what is being done? Like, again, for context, that's what I know. You see, that's why I'm here to learn. So does it pay? If it doesn't, what are you doing to cushion the production costs for your music, for everything? Because again, aside from it being creative and fun, it's still a business and you still have to eat at the end of the day. So what are you doing to cushion yourself to make sure that you're not sleeping hungry or the lights are still on and other things are being done?
Am I assuming it's my question?
That's your question, definitely, yes. Does streaming pay, first and foremost? And please, if it does,
streaming pays, guys.
Please let them know how.
I know one thing that we need to do as a region and as artists, as creatives in this, as creators of art, is make sure that we are being streamed outside of this region, especially in places where the streaming revenue is more than what we get here. I don't know if you're familiar with so for 1 million streams, for example, on Spotify in Kenya, you're probably going to be paid $300. Bila can correct me. Less than 300. Yeah, less than 300. But you see, wow. In Sweden, a million streams in Sweden is $10,000. So how do we get Kenyan music to be big in Sweden? How do we get our music streamed in America that maybe is paying $4,000 on the million stream? That's the conversation we should be having. But even with the current numbers, people are making money from YouTube. I mean, I had the privilege one day to see the back end of one of the big... Clemo showed me the back end and how people are making... Yeah, I know if you guys are with Clemo. I know how much you're making now. Okay. But Clemo just showed me what people are making off of YouTube alone. And it's not chump change. you know, and like entire YouTube, entire YouTube channels are supporting people's livelihoods. So yes, we are making money off of streaming. What was your first question though? You asked like those two questions.
That was it. That was
it.
That was the most important anyway.
Yeah, so
The platform.
Can I-
choose the platform?
we don't choose the platform
Yeah.
because as an artist you market yourself, and it's like having Blue Band. It's in Nakumat, it's in Ukwala, it's in Ketia, it's in every supermarket. It's in, but it's in every supermarket. And as a musician, the more contact points your audience has with your music, the better. So I think it's wise to make sure your music is in all the platforms, and that way, for that to happen, we go through distributors. So, for example, 1RPM is going to make sure that BN's music, my current single, is distributed through 1RPM. Yeah. So when
Well done,
Willa will
Willa.
make sure that my music is in Apple Music, is in Spotify, it's in what, and then also make sure that the marketing is proper, so that they recoup and I recoup.
I'd like to add to my superstar. Also the benefit of not choosing reduces piracy. So when you put music on one platform, and maybe negating a bit of what Angela is saying, some fans will steal the music from the artist and then put it on a different platform. Like they think the artist is maybe dumb. Ajui kusu Spotify or something. So yeah, you'll put it on Spotify through a different distributor. So if you don't put your music on all platforms, you're actually killing your own art. So, and a lot of Kenyan artists put music on YouTube first instead of like on streaming. That also increases piracy. So you need to put your music out on all stores at the same time to reduce piracy. Just to add to that.
Excellent. That's a good one. Thank you. Thank you for that. There was one final question from the first round. Microphone, please. Microphone, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Musau. I manage one of the greatest artists in the world called Butros. Anyway, I just had two questions for Musyoka and Peng. For Musyoka, with what you're saying, so like what's platinum or like gold in Kenya with this new sort of system you're creating? Because I feel like if we don't evaluate, like ukijua ako gold or platinum, I feel like even brands are gonna value someone more because of their sales, right? So I don't know where we are with that. Maybe you can answer. And then maybe on to Peng. I like what Hustle Sasa is doing, been a fan since day one. So my question would be like what Kanye West is doing. If I drop an album today and don't distribute it, Pole Bilha, kwa hizi platforms zingine, I just leave it to Hustle Sasa and I sell it at 10 bob and 1 million people buy it. That's 10 million straight to my account, right? But how can we stop the piracy from that? Because honestly, you just need the community to make this money. This conversation we're having over and over, it's gonna grow, but yeah. Thank you.
Eric?
Wow. My fellow Kamba man, I see you've done your homework. I was trying to avoid talking about Trike too much, but hey, the platform is here. Wacha nijiuze. So, let me give you our 3 key pillars. 1, ISRC code for identification of sound recorded music. 2, chart certification, music certification, sorry. Charts, and then anti-piracy. Those are our 4 key pillars for Reiki. Charts, like your top 100, top 10 music of the week. ISRC code for identification. Certification of music, like what he has asked. And then anti-piracy. Let me get back to what he has asked. So we're in the process of creating a weighted system to understand what 1 million streams in Kenya equates to. Yeah, it's not an easy task. There's a lot of mathematics involved and a lot of consultation with IFPI and other national bodies, because as you know, the US has set the standard for platinum at $1 million, so going down like that. So it's a weighted system. We are still in the process of working that out with directions from IFPI. So I can give you a tentative time frame. By mid next year, we should be implementing that and identifying the achievements of our musicians and from the streaming sites, because we also rely on a lot of data from the Spotify, the YouTubes, and the DSPs. So it's a process. We are still new. We are working on that. So very good question. We shall be implementing that in the next coming 1 year. So we shall be knowing Bien's Kipara song is platinum, gold, and stuff.
I think it's interesting times for the Kenyan industry where we'll be putting in structures. We'll have the certifications, then we'll have the official charts, and then hopefully we'll have a real awards
Yeah.
ceremony.
Our own Grammy.
Our own Grammy, yeah. So wonderful. Pardon? Oh yeah, you had the second question.
And then I think your second question is around like self-distributing as an artist these days to capitalize on the total value that you have. I'd say it's not a new thing, right? Like back in the day, people were slinging CDs out of the back of their cars, right? Thousands of albums, 10,000 albums. I think there's definitely cases today where you see artists like Tory Lanez, for example. He sold 1 million of his albums as NFTs, right? At $1 each, right? Or Kanye West releasing through his STEM player, etc. But I think in order to do that, you have to have built a community first, right? Distribution is still the name of the game. And I think through platforms like 1RPM and other distribution methods, you have to leverage what you have to grow the strongest base you can, and then turn that audience as much as possible inwards, right? I'm going to use Mordecai there and Heart the Band as an example as well. I think a few years ago for one of the album releases, just before you put it out on streaming, you also put it out to sell directly to your fans, right? I believe it was like 1,000 shillings an album. And the two can go hand in hand, right? I think as much as so much work has been done to fight piracy, which is definitely commendable and completely required, I think we also need to make it easier for fans to show that they care and want to support you themselves, right? It's a two-pronged approach. And I think by being able to sell things direct or build that direct relationship, you know who it is, right? I remember there was somebody that bought your album 10 times, right? They didn't need to do that. They just called and said, your single got me through some really tough times. The opportunity that I have to speak directly with you, so you have my name and contact, that's valuable, right? So it's a two-pronged approach, both on the piracy side, and also developing systems where a fan feels measured and valued to be a part of your life.
Excellent, excellent. So maybe I could go to the second round, and you can pick from there, Peng. So what lessons can Kenya borrow from US direct-to-fan platforms?
I think first of all is to understand like the scale of things are very, very different in other markets, right? If we talk about ticketing companies like Live Nation and Ticketmaster, these guys do 55,000 events a year, right? They process something like $13 billion on just event revenue in 1 year, right? You also have like population, urban density, all of these things. But I think the biggest lesson from the States is being able to provide a full suite of services and content to your fans, right? And meeting them where they are, whether that's, living room sessions, right? Whether that's calling your fans, whether that's showing up at a birthday party, whatever it is to show that like you're not a statistic, right? And I think that's one thing that people in America do really well. Obviously, there's things around like NFTs, etc. My personal kind of mentality on that is, we have to start getting paid in fiat money first, right? And then we can convert. Yeah, but I think there's just like, somebody else said that like we've only been doing this for like 15, 20 years here, right? When they talk about Hollywood, right? Hollywood's been around for 200 years, right? So I think we can't give ourselves too hard of a time, but just make the right directions towards where we want to go.
And the most important thing that I picked from this morning's session, I think it was Panos who said the advantage that we have, even as a region or as a country, is that we can actually leapfrog. Even we look at the technologies, we didn't start off, but we have been able to leapfrog to where everyone else is now. So it's an opportunity that I think we can all be able to jump on. Bilha, How can local artists use data and analytics to negotiate better deals?
That's a very good question. Data enables artists to be able to have an edge in the table. So, I mean, it depends on the deal. In fact, let's start with contextualizing what deal you're negotiating. So if you're negotiating management deal, 360 label deal, there are various types of deals for artists to negotiate. So different data is relevant in all of those situations. Not all data can be used in all those situations. Specific data can be used. So for example, if you're negotiating a distribution deal and then you bring tour sales, there is nothing to talk about. That's for paying. For distribution, you need Spotify and Apple and YouTube data. That's what enables them to be able to move the conversation forward. So understanding as well where your market is. Like Bien said, some higher markets are streaming better than Kenya. So if you're one of those artists, it's important for you to highlight that. If it's something as well in your vision and plan, so that vision and plan is necessary. If it's in your vision and plan to want to go to those higher streaming markets, that's something you want to factor in. You might say, like, for example, right now most of my fan base is in Kenya, but I do want to break into the US market. So even as you're negotiating that, how are the numbers that you have helping you to break into those markets? Maybe it's Kenyans, and so we can tap into Kenyans in the USA. Which states in the USA are Kenyans based? So there's always an answer to that, but data and analytics are very important, and you can use it. Just remember, and I'll say in bold and capital underline, relevant data. Not all data is relevant. Relevant data, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And Musyoka, you've already told us how Reiki is working with some of the international bodies to protect artists and owners of sound recordings. So particularly for streaming, I mean, you've been in this game for so long, and I know, you have this wealth of knowledge for the music players here. What do you think they should be able to concentrate on? What is the target so we can be able to make it work for Kenya?
One, the lowest hanging fruit is definitely quality content. I know sometimes we get bashed and told we don't have a Kenyan sound, or Mara, we can't compete with Nigerians. But from where I'm seated, we are equally as competitive. Yes, some markets may have some advantages, of course, but the playing field has kind of been leveled. Ni bidii yako sasa. There's a saying we always say, kujituma. And I'll give Bien as an example. I've worked with artists, wengine wamejituma, wengine hawajajituma. So for us, where we are seated as Reiki, and it's just to make sure that you have the right framework, the right support, the right policies to enable you focus on your creative work and other auxiliary efforts that enable you to succeed in the global market. We are in the global environment right now, and as Bien said, when you look at the concept of who moved the cheese is big out there, the cake is big out there, and with the right support and the right hello, Mike, sound engineer, I work, my friend. Hey. Tupata ninyi meattend. Hello. Yes, and with the right support and the right framework, what Reiki we are providing, we are providing you with the systems and the framework to enable you to be also equally competitive, and also by protecting your works and awarding you and giving you benchmarks that you can look up to, and so that you know where you stand in terms of the global space.
Thank you. And Bien, then tell us, because it's streaming power and the business of sound, and I'll underline the word business. Just let us know your business decisions that helped you and also helped Sauti Sol monetize in streaming and also beyond streaming.
It's the first business decision we made was was discipline. To just show up and show out for Sauti Sol and for ourselves. The second business decision we made that changed our lives was management. And I just saw Marek walk in. And Sauti Sol and Marek, what we built together is still indomitable. And it's still what I'm reaping off my career right now. Yeah. I hope wherever Marek is, he's eating as well as I'm eating.
Is he here?
Well,
A round of applause. Please stand up and we can appreciate you, Marek.
Yeah, man. Like, and when we started working with Marek, I came to understand that outside of my passion for singing, there's a world of business. And I'm not just talking about music business, just business in general. So one thing we did that was a game changer for us was the Stanford Seed program, where our company, Sauti Sol Entertainment, went into a program with Stanford University where we were taught business, process flows, and all the really boring unseen work that goes on behind making a business prosper. And after that, we got a board. And our board, the chairman of our board is Mr. Kuria Mushiru. He's also the chairman of Britam. He was the CEO of PwC for a long time and he's a partner at PwC. So these are all people who are technocrats in other fields. But you know, at the end of the day, the laws of business, the laws that govern business are the same. It's profit, loss. And so we took time to understand, I took time to understand, because I didn't study business in uni. Savara had a head start in all of us in understanding that, but we took time to understand how the business side of things in general works. But those are the three things I'd say, like our discipline with money as well, in like from when we first earned our first big check and we were like, let's open an account, let's start paying Sauti Sol as a member and distributing the money to ourselves, then salarying ourselves. And then when we met Marek, now the business decisions we built, like let's get management that's going to be like this. From the management, the Stanford Seed program, from that to getting a board. And we've been able to build progressively into our festival and to many other, facets of the music business. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I'm sure this round has many questions, at least for more interactive to be able to see. So please, yes, we have one here, 2 there, 3 there, 4 there, and we close it with 5 there, and then we shall have our closing remarks from the panelists. I should say that we have around 15 minutes, so we try and wrap it up. Microphone, please. Second row here.
You want this?
Platforms refuse, thank you, the stream platforms are not paying out fairly in Africa, right? And in a world where I can use DistroKid and for 2,000 shillings, anybody can put up on Apple Music and Spotify and whatever in a day, right? Is it in the young artists' interest to embrace piracy and just put their music out there and let everybody get it, and instead use Hustle Sasa to do merch and live events and build the community and connect with their audiences and stop trying to make money off of streams, which in Africa is just not there yet? Sorry.
If I'm going to speak as a young artist, I think the young me would have wanted to embrace piracy at some point. I remember walking around clubs with a CD of my latest single, and Savara and I literally gave out our music in matatus, in clubs in the CBD. We did that. But very quickly, life starts catching up with you as a young artist. And when life catches up with you, you have hard bills to pay. And if you didn't register your music in the proper formats with the RIA code, with the codes,
SRC. Yeah.
with the SRC codes, Asante Musyoka, and you're not starting to see the revenue come, even the piracy won't work. I think what's important is to make sure that from an early age, or from when you begin your career, that we must be taught the ethics around the music and why it's important for your music to be registered as is. And building community is built online, but is really built on ground more. Like, that hasn't changed. So it's also in the interest of young artists to put themselves in uncomfortable situations on the ground and build a following every day. Yeah.
Just
Did I answer your question?
to follow up on that issue of piracy, in the digital age and modern age we are living in, there are so many free avenues that are legitimate that you can use to expose yourself and sell yourself. I'll give you an example of Instagram, TikTok. You can just record your music and embed it in the video itself, and that's a form of marketing for yourself. It's a legitimate way of preventing a third party who you have no idea, no identity of, consuming and taking your music and spreading it to other parts of the world. So to say that I'm a struggling artist, I'm starting right now, in this day and age, it's self-defeating, and it doesn't help you in the long run.
Can I add to that? So we do have a lot of artists that actually did that early in the day, and then, like Bien said, reality catches up with them. When you're negotiating a deal, and yes, you're the most popular artist on ground, but you don't have revenues to show, it's very hard for people to make deals with you. And actually, there is money to be made, little or not, it's still money. And you can collect it because it's yours, as more is coming, because they're working on improving it. But currently, whatever is available, you should collect it legally, and then also build a number so that you have something to show when you're discussing with whoever, Universal, 1RPM, whoever you're discussing with will need to see numbers, right? So it's important for us to also talk to those artists and tell them, no, there is hope. Don't do things that are self-defeating. Build your career right now. There is ways to make legitimate money right now, albeit small, but it is still something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different actions for different phases of your career in your life, right? There's a lot of jobs and things that I did early on that I would never do again now, right? But I think even as, if you go on YouTube or, royalty-free sites, etc., there's tons of young artists who are putting out their beats, their music for free just as a discovery platform, right? But I think it's up to everybody to figure out at what point in the career that, do you feel like you've gotten enough traction from putting yourself out there? Do you feel like this is something that you can do for a lifetime? Do you feel that you have the right support system and network around you to pursue this, right? And if so, I think there's tons of opportunities, and every day we're seeing new venues open up, right? And I've always said, even as a venue owner, we need more, right? I mean, Ben coming back from the States, you should have a venue size for every stage of your career, right? Whether it's 0 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, etc. You should have a stream platform that works you at every stage of your career. Whether it's DistroKid at first, and then you move on to somebody like 1RPM that might be able to provide more bespoke services. It's like you have different mentors at different stages of your life, exactly as Bien was saying as well, right? So I think it's taking it in steps and understanding that there is no magic bullet that's going to take you from 0 to 100, right?
And to add on to that, Mdundo is here. Is Martin around? Martin? Yeah. So Mdundo allows you to upload your music, no costs, pirate free, and people they have a very wide audience, and they pay something small. I mean, as Peng has said, every stage of your career, there's somebody willing to cater for you.
Like, why not make that? Why not make that? Even if you're gonna make $50, why not make that $50? You can pay for your album cover art or a subscription that you use to manage yourself. Maybe ChatGPT, your yearly cost. Let's not be defeated, and let's not look for that. It looks like a shortcut, but it's actually taking the long route when you do that. Yeah.
Wow, excellent. I guess that was a very touching question that everyone felt they needed to say, jump in and say something. Excellent. Let's go to the second question, please. Yes, microphone.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Reverend Dr. Pete Odera. I'm a veteran in the industry.
Woo! Makofi.
I don't want to complain. I do want to do something that I think is important to those who are listening and maybe wanting to create a career. I've been in the industry. My first album came out 35 years ago today. And
Today.
It's 35 years ago. At some point in 1990. I don't know where some of us were. But I've watched the industry go. I mean, I recorded from cassette tape to CD to downloads to streams. I think it's important for us to understand that we're living in an ecosystem and we're living in a progressive system. That as things begin to progress, things get better. I was watching an interview I was doing not too long ago on Standard TV, and everybody's complaining that the industry is doing so badly. I was sharing with somebody earlier today. This format, we're in 3 different rooms from the creative economy today. And this is something I would not have dreamt of in a hallucination 35 years ago. So I want to commend us before we start to say this is wrong and this is wrong. I want us to also have a sense of unity. I like how we've all come together to cheer Bien because, you know, Breakfast Club and everything. But some of us were slogging behind the scenes invisibly. And I feel that when we support one another, when we do these kind of things, right now we're generating 6.6 billion because we're talking about 5% of 132 GDP, 132 billion GDP in Kenya. Do the math. That's a huge number. If we can work together, increase efficiency, do a lot more in terms of infrastructure support, I feel, and do things like this and work together. IFPI, I've watched us grow. And so I am just commending us this afternoon for a job well done. Pat yourself on the back and say, thank you, Kenya, for growing. And then can we grow further? Let's start, because remember when I was asked, what do you expect to see? I expect to see growth. So can we grow?
Excellent. We need to grow. We need to grow. Thank you for that intervention, Pete. Third question. We have 2 minutes, but we can, I think we started late. Maybe we'll be given 10 more minutes. We'll ask for 10 more minutes. Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Selina Onyando. I'm a creative policy analyst and an artist. And mine is less of a question, but I think it's something that needs to be said. First of all, I have to commend Raiki for the work that you're doing in the policy space. But I think there's really an opportunity in Kenya to think about innovative policy approaches away from what has been traditionally implemented. So stuff that speaks specifically to our industry's needs. I think we chart a very dangerous territory when we start speaking about website blocking, particularly in the political context in which we exist in Kenya right now. So I think there's opportunity to think a bit more innovatively about what approaches we're taking where industry policy is concerned. Thanks.
So I'd like to ask, you look like Gen Z. You're Gen Z. Please give us 1 or 2 of those innovative thoughts that you have. It'd be very good to know what you think.
Yeah, I think Billa spoke to this a bit, but also Peng mentioned how do we incentivize users as well so that they are less inclined to pirate music, but more inclined to actually pay for music. So it maybe is not even something that needs to be embedded in policy, but more around advocacy to ensure that users are empowered enough to spend money on music. So that's just off the top of my head, by the way. Yeah.
That's a good one. But I'm hoping that you will not be spending on the pirated sites. I hope you spend it on the legit sites so it can go back to the owners and BN can get, yes? Aso sasa. Wonderful. Where is the final question, please? Time is not on our side. Oh, and of course, Faith. And you can also wrap it up with your remarks also, Faith.
My boss is here.
Oh, your boss is here.
So my name is Faith Ngai from the U.S. Embassy. And so when I sat here and I've listened to, especially the website blocking, and though she's telling me no, I'll explain a little bit about that. So my question is, so as we come here and listen to us, what is it that is really affecting us in terms of policy to commercialize our music? Is it something that everyone here understands? And I think I'll go to Raiki again because you're the one who is handling policy in that area. And then I know we talked about the WIPO internet treaties. That's one of the things that we can talk about. But you have really something, I know there are different policies, but is there something specific we can come out with here that we can go and speak to the government of Kenya about? And what are the artists themselves doing about it in informing that policy? Thank you.
Thanks for that, Faith. I'm sure you've all heard of Play Kenya, Buy Kenya. So it's an unconventional policy that has been adopted by creatives to enable us to push our own personal content. But let me also throw a spanner in the works. When we release music as Kenyans, we're also competing with Chris Brown, Burna Boy, 50 Cent, and the rest. So again, music being a very subjective, consumptive product, you cannot force people to listen to you. Yeah. The only thing we can do is encourage the industry and the ecosystem to incentivize musicians to produce better music. And one is through making money out of it. If everybody is seeing money being made, I'll give a good example. And thank you, Pete, for talking about the legacy that has been created and where the industry has grown. When I was starting music, there was literally no money, but I believed in the industry. And there are people who have set the precedent and invested in policies and mechanisms that have enabled us get to the point whereby musicians are building home. Musicians that BN drives a Porsche. I'm sorry.
I'm renting it, guys. I'm renting it.
You don't want Kerry to come to you there, okay?
I know the commissioner. But just generally, I mean, just look at Calligraph's Instagram page, surely. You want to tell me music doesn't pay? It's a form of incentive that is tangible, and everybody wants to make a career and a living out of music. So our work is just to make sure that the ecosystem, the policies, and the framework exists and protects the creators of content so that everybody can have a dream and aspiration to be a musician because they know I can make a life and career out of this. So for us, that's the lowest hanging fruit. In terms of forcing the audience to consume music, my ear does not discern Chris Brown, 50 Cent, or BN. Whatever comes to my ear, I will listen. Yeah. It's for me as an artist to create content that's competitive enough to enable me reach a bigger and better audience. Yeah.
Can I?
Wonderful.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure, Bilha.
Sorry.
Very fast, please.
Very fast. As we're advocating for more platforms to come and to be more monetized in Kenya, we should also look at the pay rate. I saw yesterday in the news that a stream in the US now pays $1 from 30 cents. Those are some of the things we should start advocating for so that BN next time says 1 million in Kenya costs $10,000 hata sisi tunataka hiyo. So things like that, yeah.
I tend to agree with you, Bilha, and I was going to add that and just maybe, Mark, sorry for, I really want you to say something, no bombarding you, but, oh, okay, you can say that one.
I'm saying, I also feel like the telco system where we have Skiza and mobile money, mobile consumption of music, need to give us better percentages. We've been fighting for years. We've written policies, we've spoken. Some of these things we're just defeated at this point because we're like, how much more can we speak? So maybe if it comes from you guys, it'll be listened. But
So
trust
Mark,
me,
that's now
yeah.
for you to be able
our
to
file has
tell
been
us how
on
to
the
help us.
president's desk for a minute.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And if you can get, especially, we had this morning, all the platforms, Meta and all, to be able to at least increase or monetize or give us some value out of that, that would really help. At this point, allow me to just ask Mark, please, just give us just 1-2 minutes of just something of what the embassy's contribution is going to do for the music industry, or yeah, just what you think about the music industry in Kenya.
All right, nothing like being put on the spot.
I'm sorry.
No, it's perfect. Actually, what I was thinking as I was listening to this back and forth was this is exactly the reason we wanted people to bring people together today, because it's when you're hearing from people who are going through the creative process and then the entrepreneurial process. That's far away from my professional experience. Right, so it's hard for me to know what to represent to the Kenyan government when it's not part of my personal experience. And this is the kind of information that we really wanted to hear. Some of the things that the minister spoke about this morning, some of the for example, the 2024 Creative Economy Bill, and some of the changes in terms of this is music, but on film, in terms of film, 2 to 4 weeks for doing film production licensing, have grown out of conversations like this. So I'm glad to hear this as the next step to help inform the kind of policy dialogue that goes along. So in short, thank you for fulfilling exactly what we were hoping would happen today.
Excellent, excellent. A round of applause, please. So I'll give the panelists, please, one last very short words. Give us some hope, give us some, oomph to go back and know that, streaming, the power of streaming is there, and we need to make business out of it. Can we start with Bilha, please?
Okay. This is the most exciting time to be a Kenyan artist. We are making a lot of money, by the way. Kere, don't come for us yet, but we are making a lot of money and a lot of strides forward. It's good to see artists streaming in the US, chatting in the UK, chatting in Nigeria, chatting in other markets where it was before a novelty. So, and we're getting more, not just one, having a couple more, so that Lil Minor is next, Vijana Barubaru are next, so we want to see that. And this is the most exciting time, so if you're hesitant or if you're on the fence, jump in now.
Jump in now. Yes, Peng.
For me, I think it's just more about how interconnected every piece in the music ecosystem is, right? And again, referencing back to the first panel, one person's success is everybody else's success, right? In order for artists to succeed, we need to have the right venues, we need to have the right distribution, we need to have the right policies. In order for something else to succeed, the artist has to make great music, so on and so forth, right? And I think we're at a time, I've been in Kenya for the last 13 years. This is my, adopted home, and to see the kind of the growth along every facet of this chain has been incredible, right? So if everybody kind of, steps up in their unique chain and see how it all comes together and how we can benefit each other, I think that's the only way for, a rising tide to lift all boats, right?
Excellent. Musyoka?
For me, I'd say keep creating, keep elevating, and knowledge is power. It can always come to your leverage when the opportunities come knocking. Yeah.
Wow, short and sweet. And we will finish with Bien. And as you finish, you know what you have to do. So finish as you do what you're supposed to be doing.
Anyway, the pressure. First of all, I want to thank the American Embassy for this forum. I want to thank the American Embassy for facilitating my O1 visa. Guys, no, let me finish. Let me finish. Guys, I think we've demystified the travel that is artistic and is integrous in our field. We need to sit down and I'll tell you what I did to apply for my O1 visa. I think everyone here is eligible for an O1 visa because you are all people of special talent. But our spiritual work is to push our culture into new spaces. And when I was in America the other day, I discovered they don't know the difference between me and Burna Boy. We're just Africans. To mean that in that side of town, the playing field is level.
Wow.
So let's go look for our cheese. It's there for us. And we deserve it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Round of applause for the panelists, please.